says, why are the doors open? The doors of immigration open to Hispanics, but closed for Haitians? I don't know. Let's see, Dr. Anderson, what's going on here? He says the primary reasons immigrants from Haiti are treated differently than Hispanics are skin color and the country's historical role in the development of the Western world. The welcome mats for immigrants have always been based on a ranking order of skin color, ethnicity, and country of origin. Hispanics, whether in Europe or America, have always been classified as whites speaking Spanish, therefore entitled to preferential immigration into the U.S. from any country of origin. For Haitians and other persons of African descent, the welcome mat did not exist, except as slaves. So if you come over as a slave, then they're happy to have you. The bias against Haitian immigrants and refugees has a deep-seated historical element that caused great fear in whites in the U.S. For Haiti was the world's first free black nation in the entire Western Hemisphere. It's the first nation where the slaves fought back and won. When black slaves in Haiti successfully revolted against their French slaveholders, they became a free, independent nation, the first and only instance where slaves were ever able to break free and establish their own independent nation. No other black nation on earth had ever rebelled and overthrown their white colonial powers. The slave revolt in Haiti hit America hard. President George Washington and Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, who were both slave owners, supported France in its efforts to suppress the Haitian slave revolt, but to no avail. So they supported the slaveholders. These are your heroes. These are the people that you're told to look up to. I don't know why you would look up to someone who enslaved your great grandparents, but that's what we're taught to do. It is remarkable that black Haitians defeated Napoleon Bonaparte's army, which was France's most effective military force. They also defeated the military forces of England and Spain. White slaveholders in the U.S. feared slave revolts would ignite physical hostilities between white society and the millions of blacks they held as slaves, so they started getting nervous. The military success of the slaves in Haiti did have a profound effect on slavery and a lasting impact on the way the United States treats Haitians today. Slavery was legalized as an official institution in 1789 with ratification of the U.S. Constitution. 2 years later, in August 1791, Haitian slaves revolted and took control of the island. 4 months later, December 8th, 1791, frightened American slave owners persuaded the U.S. Congress to enact the Second Constitutional Amendment that granted white citizens the right to have militias and required all white males between 18 and 45 to bear arms in the case of slave revolts. How many of y'all knew that? Give me a guess if you ever heard this before anywhere. Has anybody heard that before? Did you learn that? Did they teach you that in your public school? I didn't learn it. They didn't tell me that. That's interesting, right? So according to Dr. Anderson, a lot of these Second Amendment rights are driven by this fear of black people, it sounds like. So let me read that again. This is really interesting. So 2 years later, in August 1791, Haitian slaves revolt. So let me go back. Slavery was legalized as an official institution in 1789 with the ratification of the U.S. Constitution. 2 years later, in 1791, Haitian slaves revolted and took control of the island. So we ratified slavery, we put in the Constitution, and then the Haitians revolt 2 years later. 4 months after that, in December 1791, frightened American slave owners persuaded the U.S. Congress to enact the Second Constitutional Amendment. So the Second Amendment, according to Dr. Anderson and his book, The Black History Reader, which everyone should own, get extra copies. We need to support this man because he did this for us. He's saying that the Second Amendment, all these Second Amendment rights, literally came right out of a fear of controlling black people. That is quite fascinating. So let's keep reading. So he says, so frightened slave owners persuaded the U.S. Congress to enact the Second Constitutional Amendment that granted white citizens the right to have militias and required all white males between 18 and 45 to bear arms in case of a slave revolt. So they started getting nervous. They said, oh my gosh, one day these people are going to realize that we aren't their friends. The fear of possible slave revolts was omnipresent and triggered southern states to organize militias. So they put together militias because they were so afraid that we were going to wake up. There were a few slave revolts in the U.S., but none of them succeeded. The key point in this historical recitation is that the fear generated by the successful Haitian revolt produced a hate and fear in whites toward Haitians. Haiti paid a high price for its military successes. The country was reviled. feared by all white nations of the world precisely for its successful slave revolts, and Haiti was therefore isolated and crushed into deep poverty. The difference between the treatment of Hispanics and the treatment of Haitians seeking citizenship in America reflects racism and the lasting memories of the astounding victories of the Western Hemisphere by the poor, almost defenseless dark people in the most isolated nation in the Americas. The punishment to Haiti for its military achievements and the embarrassment that it inflicted on world power superpowers is incorporated into America's enduring international policy. For instance, the 1823 Monroe Doctrine defined any intervention by external powers in the politics of the Americas as a potentially hostile act against the U.S. This prohibits Haiti from getting much foreign political aid from other countries. They cannot help themselves, and the U.S. will not allow others to help them. As recently as May 2017, the Washington Post reported that President Donald Trump's administration was treating Haitians in this country differently from other immigrants. To decide whether Haitians here in temporary protected status should be allowed to stay in the U.S., the administration is taking the unusual step of seeking data on criminal backgrounds and Haitian use of welfare benefits. Hmm. Ooh, and that hits funny knowing that they just having a free for all down at the border right now, and everybody and their mama's coming over here. That's interesting. I'll tell you what was really fascinating to me was when I talked to two Latino women. One was Puerto Rican, and another one was from another country. I don't know. And somebody and I think someone had made the suggestion, yeah, Dr. Boyce, you should get your book translated into Spanish. This was years ago, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And she talked to the other lady and she said, well, we need to talk to Boyce about the fact that Hispanic people are really racist. And that was, and I kind of knew it, but I kind of asked her about that. She said, yeah, she said there's a difference between white and black. And it's a myth that because they're from south of the border, that they're somehow in this alliance with black people. If you go down, when I would go, and some of you have been south of the border, but I'll tell you what my experience was. Most of the countries I went to in South America or even Central America and all that, pretty much you would see the areas where it would be all white, nothing but white people, just white people speaking Spanish. And the black people would always be like over in some other neighborhood. Like they would be on the black side of town. And if you saw a black person on the white side of town, it was usually somebody who was working for a white person. It's like a Spanish plantation, basically. That's kind of the feeling, the vibe that I got. And so maybe because we were Americans, we didn't feel it quite as much. But then again, though, I'm not good at picking up on whether or not somebody likes me or not because I don't give a shit. So basically, it's like maybe they didn't like me. Maybe they looked at me and said, that Negra, blah 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 blah. I don't care. You can think whatever you want about me.